Hi all, welcome to my channel again. In this session, I'm going to discuss about working with namespaces and services in Kubernetes. Okay, so we are going to discuss about what is the namespace in Kubernetes, and we are going to create a namespace for our deployment, which we have created in the previous session. So before watching this video, please go and watch that session to get a better understanding of what is going to discuss in this session. So in the previous session, we have created a deployment and that deployment is being used here. So I would say before starting this session, please go and watch that video. And the next is the services, load balancing, networking in KATS that I will explain in this session. And I have mentioned everything in this blog in detail. If you want to check out this blog, you can check that from this link which I will be keeping in the description box. From there you can access this blog. So let's start now. Namespaces in KATS. So namespace is the methodology of categorizing a single cluster into multiple subclusters in an organization. I will explain you this with an example. For example, you have a Kubernetes cluster which is running on your machine, and you need to have the of once the Kubernetes cluster is running on your machine, you need for categorizing the environments. We create these namespaces. Like for example, if we have test and UAT and dev environment, so these are the three environments, let us say. So instead of creating the clusters differently, we can create the namespaces for different environments. For example, for performance testing and for any other thing, like UAT, we can use the namespaces in the same cluster. So for that purpose, we are creating the multiple subclusters in an organization, and these subclusters are then managed by different teams and that can interact and share information between them. So while the clusters can function autonomously, they are still connected to other clusters and aren't completely independent, and can even support one cluster nested with another. In general, there is a default namespace where all the sources exist. Okay, that is about the namespace. Hope you got the detailed explanation and understanding of what is a namespace. So now let's create a namespace for your deployment. So in the previous session we have created a deployment. If you have watched that video, then we are using the same deployment here to create a namespace in the server using this below command kubectl create namespace, and this is the my Reddit app, which is a namespace name. It is going to be a name of the namespace which we are going to create. So once you run this command, then you can see the namespace my Reddit app got created. Now edit the deployment file and add namespace to it. So since namespace got created, here we can mention our namespace. So this is the deployment which we have created in the previous session. I will just explain you all again, just like overview. So this is the API version v1, we can say. Then the kind is the deployment, and the metadata, the pod name is the Reddit app. Sorry, deployment name is the Reddit app. Since the kind is a deployment, we are creating a deployment YAML to apply our deployment. So this is the Reddit app deployment, the name of the deployment, and the replicas should be 2. The namespace we have declared, which we have created above, and we have also specified the labels and the container name, what it should be, and the image where we are taking it from, and the port to which it is exposed to. All of these things we need to detail mention in the deployment YAML. Then when we run the deployment file by applying the namespace to it using this command. So while you are running this command, you need to mention the namespace in order to apply the deployment file to a specific namespace. Okay, if you don't define this namespace while executing this command, then it will get applied to whatever is the default namespace which you are in, then it will get applied to that default namespace. So in order to avoid that, you need to include your namespace by giving this flag as -n. So once this got executed, then you can see the namespaces by giving this command kubectl get namespace. So this is the how you can create a namespace. Okay, you can see it is active and running. And the next one is services, load balancing, and networking in KATS Kubernetes. So services is to make our pods or the containers access to the external network. So for that purpose services is used. It normally enables the access to the external network to access pods in Kubernetes. Services select pods based on their labels. When a network request is made to the service, it selects all pods in the cluster matching the services selector, chooses one of them and forwards the network request to it. That's how the services in Kubernetes works. Load balancing. Load balancing is a key component of Kubernetes container management. A load balancer distributes network traffic among multiple Kubernetes services, allowing you to use your containers more efficiently and maximize the availability of your services. Okay. Normally, what it will do is the container management. It will distribute the network traffic among the multiple Kubernetes services. And about networking, the Kubernetes network model provides the foundation for understanding how containers, pods, and services within the Kubernetes communicate with each other. So, developed by Google, networking with the Kubernetes allows administrators to move workloads across private, public, hybrid cloud infrastructures. Developers use Kubernetes to package software applications with their required infrastructure and deploy new versions quickly. So that's about the networking, and that's all for today. If you want to check out this blog, you can check that from this link which I will be keeping in the description box. And thanks for watching until the end.